Hello, this is Justin. For those of you who like my videos, please subscribe and share. Go to my Patreon to support my work. This video warrants red wine, partially because these topics are pretty serious and I kind of want to lighten the mood. But this is a pretty serious thing on how gentrification led to communism in New York. I was born in New York City and I remember 90s New York. In the 90s, New York City was still very working class and they even elected Rudy Giuliani as the mayor. So you're wondering, how could a city, the governor of New York, Pataki, was Republican too in the 90s. How could New York City go from, in New York State, go from having two strong Republican politicians to basically a one-party blue state? There are several factors. In the 90s, the federal government passed tax credits for developers to come into big cities, and there is various government financing for developers who want to come into big cities and essentially gentrify them. It didn't fully take off in the 90s, though. New York still wasn't quite popular enough. But the city gave its own tax credits to increase film in the city, and that's when you had films like Cody Ugly, was partially filmed in New York, and then, of course, the TV series Sex in the City, which is one reason why I have the glass. Those movies showed single white women moving to New York to pursue their dreams and having fabulous careers. And while, yes, I admit this was New York City, you always had people of all races moving to New York City to work, to do theater, to go to college, to go to graduate or law school, or do whatever. The idea that you could come to New York City as a single white female really gave the cool factor of the city a huge boost. So by the early 2000s, New York City started gentrifying wildly, I would say after the dot-com collapse. And by around 2005, 2006, that was when the national real estate boom happened, and a lot of people got gentrified out of New York. And contrary to popular belief, the people who first in large numbers got gentrified out of New York City were not black people, they were not Latinos, they were not immigrants. Working class white neighborhoods in Manhattan, those people got gentrified out of New York City before the economic collapse in 2008. I mean, neighborhoods like the Village, Upper West Side had a lot of poor areas, but not by 2008. Northern Brooklyn and Western Brooklyn by 2008, a lot of people had to leave. They went to Florida or North Carolina, or if they stayed in New York, they had to move further away. Then you had the 2008 economic collapse, and then if you thought Williamsburg gentrified, like all those old warehouses got turned into condos by the 2010s. It was insane. But anyway, the film industry was certainly a part of this, as was the tech industry. So a lot of very wealthy white people were involved in this. Sarah Jessica Parker and the team from Sex and the City. Yes, that was filmed in New York City because of the big tax credits they got. Yes, they got fabulously wealthy from it. They felt guilty. So because they felt guilty, and just like that, they had to diversify it. It had to have like a black, two black women, an Indian woman, a Mexican woman. Charlotte's oldest daughter is Asian. They had to show that they were ethnically and racially diverse. But being ethnically and racially diverse does not change the fact that they gentrified working and middle class people outside of New York City. And they turned New York City into a place in which you have to be either super wealthy or you have to be welfare poor. And yeah, there's exceptions like everyone involved in that really terrible transformation in New York, the film industry, the tech industry, universities, all wanted to have all of these race-based programs to make themselves seem so good. Like, oh my God, they gentrified working class people outside of the city, of all races and middle class people. But somehow it's made better in their minds if they are able to promote the token black person or the token Latino person, which is insane. And I don't like black and Latino people being used as tokens like this. I'm going to speak out against this. So screw you. So no, Cynthia Nixon from Sex and the City, you don't get a pass for doing a Mexican woman, and then just like that, or I don't know, maybe you did it in real life, but you don't get a pass for doing that. having a black girlfriend or a Latino girlfriend, she's Mexican American, I think, but having a whatever kind of race girlfriend does not change the fact that you were complicit in the destruction of working class in middle New York, especially in Manhattan. I'm going to say the same for the race based programs in academia, which the Supreme Court is ending. Affirmative action by next summer will be ruled unconstitutional per the Equal Protection Clause if it's a state funded university, and illegal per Title VI at private and at public universities. So that's like, oops, I'm itching for some reason. Bye, Felicia. That's over. So for me, it was really strange when I would be traveling. Like I've been over South America, Mexico, Europe, and people would ask me, is the North somehow more progressive than the South or less racist than the South? No. I mean, what I'm just describing in New York City, them destroying working class and middle class New York. Like a lot of people had to leave. Those very wealthy white people from New York then have to support communist stuff like because for most people who are just honest, hardworking people, they made it impossible in New York City. So they have to support stuff like here's subsidized housing, here's whatever welfare programs, or here's whatever affirmative action programs to make themselves look better and probably to live with the guilt. But that doesn't mean that they're any better than, let's say, white people from the South or the middle of the country or what some people call middle America. Not at all. Not everybody white from New York is like this. I do not mean to stereotype people racially. I do not mean to stereotype people from New York. But the people I'm talking about are the rich ones who hide behind a veneer of we're so liberal, we love Black Lives Matter, which turned out to be a total fraud. Um, Patrice raised $90 million, didn't go to black communities anywhere at all. It went to buying her houses all around the world. It went to transgender organizations and lesbian organizations, but didn't do anything for black people in poor neighborhoods economically or improve their relationships with the police at all. It was all a scam by Patrice. It was paid for, she called it white guilt money, by the guilty white people who destroyed working class and middle class lives in places like New York and Los Angeles. But they're so progressive and they're so woke and they're going to support everything progressive. Like New York City has to be a sanctuary city. And not only that, this sanctuary city, the city is paying between $400 and $700 a night for immigrants to stay in hotel rooms. If you're a tourist, you might even be able to find a hotel room because it might be full of refugees long term. This is absurd. But this is what happens. I would say that certain activists were able to manipulate the guilt and the emotions of certain wealthy people who also were willing to be manipulated because they wanted to hide behind this. But her name is Grace Randolph. She does Beyond the Trailer, and she very rarely mentions politics, but she mentions revolutions happen when you have no middle class of a country, when it's just dirt poor people and an elite on top. And that's certainly starting to happen in cities like New York and Los Angeles. And that's kind of why they buy people off with these welfare and race based programs. That is why they're panicking about Trump and the conservative Supreme Court, because this Supreme Court, with 3 judges appointed by Trump, yes, they're ending race based programs. So, you wealthy white liberals in New York, you cannot hide behind race anymore very soon. As soon as these programs are ruled unconstitutional, what will you do? I know people in Europe, the New York City is the media capital. So, of course, in the global news, they're going to portray themselves as, oh, we're somehow more progressive than those people in, say, Alabama or Mississippi or Texas. They are not. I just outlined the problems with the academia in New York, the film sector, the tech sector. They have basically destroyed working in middle class New York. And there are so many good people I know who are priced out of the city. And even if you graduate from a top university and You get a job in New York. Depending on what the job is, chances are you won't be able to establish yourself there. Chances are you'll probably have to go somewhere else. It's become the system they set up is very nepotistic. You would basically either need to be born into money, or maybe if you were able to eventually become, let's say, like a top hospital administrator, like being a standard doctor might not be enough. You might need to own your own practice. I have a friend who she does plastic surgery and cosmetic dentistry, and she has multiple her medical business has multiple offices like in Manhattan. Yeah, she's doing well. Cosmetic surgery, she's living it good. I mean, you'd have to be like her. You'd have to be like a top hospital administrator or something like that. Or if you're in publishing, oh my God, you'd have to be a top editor. Or if you're in film, you'd have to be A-list. But for regular working class people, I mean, it would just, or people who want to enter these fields but don't go to the top of these fields, it just can't happen. And rather than these people all admit it just can't happen, they didn't have to set up certain programs. Like the city has a program in arts. They have, I mentioned this in another video, $7 million a year, and it helps those who want to, those who live as a woman, transgenders, to get into the film industry, and women. So yeah, this is another guilt initiative. It's a stupid guilt initiative that discriminates against men, which is why I filed a complaint with the New York State Human Rights Division, and now they have to let in both sexes. No, I'm not going to tolerate men being discriminated against just because some very wealthy men feel very guilty about them pricing working middle class people out of New York. And so they have, in their mind, it was better to give a bone to transgenders and let them be in the film industry as if they were somehow just more deserving than other people, particularly of more deserving than, in the minds of these elites, more deserving than regular men, which is insane. Mm. Now, per the Bible, drunkenness is a sin, so I don't get drunk anymore. But Jesus turned water into wine, so we can have some alcohol. We just can't get fucked up. So I'm drinking my Jesus juice. I don't know how people are going to see this when they watch it, but these are some serious topics, and I think, okay, we should have fun. And people in the news are always so serious and always so ranting. It's the end of the world. And they're always scaring and panicking people. And I want people to have fun. I know I am. Yeah. Could you imagine Ben Shapiro from the Daily Wire drinking some wine? He usually talks so fast, although I probably talk pretty fast too, so maybe I shouldn't be talking about him. But I think Ben Shapiro could use a glass of wine when he does his videos on the Daily Wire. I'm like, Ben, buy some good wine like this. It'll do some real good for you. And who else could use some wine? Tucker's a nice guy. He could use some wine too. Fox News, you gotta let Tucker drink. I mean, not drunk, but, just have some fun, dude. But yes, coastal liberals, they're all frauds. They're fakes. And goodbye for now. I am going to do another video very soon, and I'll be drinking this, but I've done this topic for now. Please subscribe and share, and please support me on Patreon. Good wine is costly. Bye for now.